You're live.
Good afternoon. Welcome to City Council. Today is Monday, February 2nd, 2026. It's approximately 1 p.m. I'm Mayor Eric Enriquez. Before we start, I want to mention that we have the ASL, American Sign Language, up in the front, interpreters available. They're here at every regular council meeting. We'll start with a moment of silence for the brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces as they protect our interests around the globe, as well as the courageous men and women of the Las Cruces Police and Las Cruces Fire Department as they keep our city safe 24/7, 365. Councilor McClure, if you'll lead us in the pledge. So there are no presentations or proclamations today. We'll start with Jobs of the Week. Sarah Rainey.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Sarah Rainey. I'm the one-stop coordinator for the Southwest Region of America's Job Center. For Jobs of the Week this week, we have a permit technician starting for the city of Las Cruces, starting at $18.77. It closes on the 9th. We also have a library manager for support services for the city, starting at $60,000, and that one closes on the 9th as well. We have for Pinnacle Institution, an institution liaison and receptionist. That one starts at $15.90 an hour and closes on the 22nd. We have an account supervisor for La Clínica de Familia, starting at $90,000, and that one closes on the 20th. Behavioral health tech and driver for intensive outpatient for La Clínica as well, starting at $30,000, and that one closes on the 20th. An animal control officer for Doña Ana County, and that one starts at $16,000 and closes on the 19th. Also, just to let everyone know, today we actually have an onboarding for all subs in our office, so feel free, anybody can stop by and get more information on the all subs opportunities. They will be in our office every Monday, so anybody can stop by from 9 to 2 and get that information directly from all subs. We also have, starting tomorrow and Wednesday, NMSU Career Expo at the Corbett Student Union Center. That's not only for students, that is for the public as well, so feel free to stop by on that one. On the 10th, in our office, we have the Job Corps meet and greet. If anybody's interested in the Job Corps program out of Roswell, the representatives will be there on the 10th in our office. On the 11th, in Hatch, we have the MSFW. That is the farm worker program. We have more information on the farm worker program for those that are out there in the fields working hard. We have information for support services for them. That one will be going on, like I said, in Hatch. And then we have an employer in-office meet and greet. That's for all employers that are looking for employees. You can come and you can sit in our office and meet the potential job placements there. And then anybody looking for a position can come in and meet the employers. And again, just another plug for the Mock It Till You Rock It. I know it's a little bit early because that one is in March, but we're still looking for volunteers to do interviews. If anybody's interested in being a part of that, it's for our local juniors and seniors, just being mentors for them and showing them how interviews go. So if you'd like to volunteer and be a mentor and do some interviews with our kiddos, you can sign up on Employee NM. And again, all of our information's on Employee NM. Anybody can scan the QR code and make it to all of our social medias as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sarah. And on that interview and mentors, what time is that exactly?
That one's going to go on from 9 to 2 because we're going to try to get all of our juniors and seniors across the county there.
Okay.
Thank you.
All
But
right,
you can
thanks.
also, I do want to mention, you can also sign up in shifts. So if you want to do like a morning shift or an afternoon shift, and that's better, that's fine. We have some people that are able to stay all day, so it's up to you.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Next is Pets of the Week. Carol?
Good afternoon. I'm Carol Nilsson, Digital Content Specialist with the Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley. This week we have Willow for our Dog of the Week, 95530, to look her up on our website. I'm a sweet-natured gal and love any one-on-one time I can get. A fresh breeze in the play yard clears my mind, and I adore sniffing around to find new scents. Treats? You won't believe how quickly I can sit when there's a snack involved. Just a little motivation, and I'm your obedient friend. I've spent several months at ASCMV and am feeling restless in my kennel. My behavior is declining, and I risk euthanasia unless someone rescues me. But I really do know how to stay calm when given the right space to do so. If you're looking for a loving and smart companion, come adopt me. So we would really love to highlight her because she is one of our red zone animals, which, if anyone's unfamiliar, our red zone animals are the animals that are at higher risk for euthanasia, because we talk about it all the time here, that the longer an animal stays in shelter, the more likely they are to decline and will have to be euthanized for behavioral reasons. So we don't want that to happen to Willow. She's an absolute sweet girl, just can't really handle the kennel stress. In our long-term residents, again, we're highlighting for the exact same reason. We would love for them to get out. Hulu, unfortunately, has hit a year in shelter, so please come adopt Hulu. Farrah has been with us 320 days, Maddie 283 days, and Lily 278 days. And for upcoming events, we'll be at Miha Coffee for our Paws and Brews event this Saturday from 10 to 1, and then we have our drive-through clinic coming up February 22nd, Sunday. Sorry, that's Sunday, February 22nd. We'll be at the Field of Dreams parking lot from 9 to 1. And for more information, visit our website, or you can follow us on social media. Thank you. Is that all?
Thank you. Next is a conflict of interest. Does any member of the city council, city manager, or any member of the city staff have any known conflict of interest with any item on the agenda?
None. None.
None.
No conflict.
None.
Mayor, I will be recusing myself from item 7.1.
Thank you. Next, we have public participation, and Katrina will be up to usher you to the podium. We'll allow up to 3 minutes. Please speak directly into the microphone, state your name, no pending litigation or items on the non-consent.
Mayor, council, those here today, and those watching online, I'm Lynn Moorer. We continue our methodical process carried out over the past year of holding the city accountable regarding its non-compliance with the federal lead and copper rule, a rule that is critical to protecting public health because there is no safe level of lead in drinking water. I'm hearing from an increasing number of folks whose municipal water is now undrinkable and who have invested in water filters to try to make their water drinkable. However, many folks are not able to afford water filters. As a part of its application to receive $15 million in funding, the city promised to prioritize disadvantaged properties so that these are inspected first and, if needed, have their lead piping replaced first. But The department has classified as disadvantaged a large number of single-family properties currently valued at $300,000 or a great deal higher. I question whether it's reasonable to conclude that any property valued at $300,000 or higher is actually disadvantaged. By contrast, most of the single-family properties built in the older parts of the city, like on Mesquite Street, Soledad Avenue, Tornillo Street, and Griggs Avenue, which seem to be truly disadvantaged, are currently valued at less than $200,000. Indeed, most are valued at less than $100,000. Many had customer-owned piping installed in the 1900s, 1910s, and 1920s. One had piping installed in 1868, according to records. These are the properties that need to be inspected first and have piping replaced first if lead is found. $500,000 and $600,000 properties shouldn't even be in the mix. The Utilities Department has nevertheless included them. Let's take a look at Cortabella. As you can see from handout 1, 13 properties are on Cortabella. All 13 were built in 2001 or later. The current estimated valuation for these properties ranges from $374,000 to $670,000. This yields an average valuation of $536,783. Incredibly, Las Cruces Utilities classifies every one of these properties on Cortabella as disadvantaged. In contrast, let's examine some of the properties in the oldest parts of the city. We have documented information today on 10 blocks situated between South Mesquite and South Tornillo Streets. Liz Rodriguez-Johnson will enlighten you about those. As always, if you're interested in reviewing more documentation, just let me know. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Mayor, City Council, I'm Liz Rodriguez-Johnson. I have facts for you about the 92 properties on 10 blocks situated between South Mesquite and South Tornillo Streets that we examined when assessing Las Cruces Utilities' non-compliance with the lead and copper rule. Handout A shows the 10 blocks. According to city documents, of the 92 properties currently present on these 10 blocks, 14 have been inspected. This means that only 15% of the properties in one of the oldest areas of the city have been inspected. All of the properties are designated as disadvantaged. Like properties discussed at the last meeting, for none of these 14 properties does the information regarding piping classifications match the classifications Las Cruces Utilities recorded in the inventory records or spreadsheet information submitted to the state. These documents continue to be full of inaccuracies and inconsistencies. Now, for some of the estimated valuations for properties on 10 blocks between South Mesquite and South Tornillo Streets. The properties on East Griggs Avenue, with the oldest recorded customer-owned piping installation date of 1868, is currently valued at $110,000. The second oldest customer-owned piping installation date of 1890 is for properties on East Grigg and North Mesquite, which are currently valued at $135,000 and $143,000 respectively. The median estimated valuation for these properties in the 10 block area is $154,600. 82% are less than $200,000. At the other end of the scale of what the Utilities Department calls disadvantage, I have new information gleaned from an IPRA request about properties on Silverado Loop. As you recall, I told you at the last meeting about properties on Silverado Loop that are designated as disadvantaged. As shown in handout C, provided to you then, Las Cruces Utilities says piping was installed in 1936. I noted that this was not believable since Silverado Loop appears to be in a newer subdivision. Recently received documents confirm this. Handout B shows that this subdivision was constructed in the early 2020s and water and wastewater piping was installed July 1, 2021. This means the 1936 date the city provided to the state is entirely incorrect. In addition, handout C shows that the estimated value for a property on Silverado Loop is more than $400,000. When Las Cruces Utilities categorizes properties on Silverado Loop as disadvantaged, it makes a mockery of those that need help the most. Thank you.
Hello, Mayor, City Council. My name is Candace Nanko, and I handle the corporate operational side of 828 Productions. I'm also a native New Mexican. For me, this role isn't just about business logistics. It's about building a sustainable, world-class industry.
Ma'am, that one is on the discussion item, so when that time comes up, we'll let you speak. You can't speak on an item that's on non-consent at this time.
Okay, can I speak as a citizen of New Mexico and just what this employer does?
When that item comes up.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, Council, Juan Garcia. I believe everything in our lives fall under two paths. What we can control through choices, risks, and consequences, and what we can't. Wrong place at the wrong time. Kids are buckled up on the way to Young Park, lovely weather, and follow traffic laws getting there. You arrive, and suddenly there's a drive-by shooting, and next you're holding a dead child in your arms. Choices, risks, and consequences. Take the local incident of the individual who shoplifted. Bad choices. Resisted arrest, another bad choice. A string of bad decisions, and now he's dead and the cop's life is destroyed. Individual walks down Main Street firing a gun in a commercial parking lot and flees from police. He ends up being shot by an officer. Bad choice, high-risk actions, ending in a tragic situation. Both stories and hundreds of others could have ended differently if people would make better choices and evaluated the risk of each one. We all screw up. God knows I have, and it's impacted people around me. But when those screw-ups go public, they become ammunition in the never-ending political circus we live in. The headlines keep coming. People in the country, excuse me, illegally are being arrested and deported. Two people interfering, excuse me, with those arrests are now dead. The news cycles play images of crying children and shattered families, ignoring the difficulties our law enforcement deal with, while politicians argue over who's to blame. The reality is raw. Lives are being upended, and there's no signs of it stopping. The large majority of these incidents could have been avoided if individuals had not violated Federal Law 8 U.S.C. 1325. Illegal crossings were made knowing the consequences could affect them and their families, often tragically, but they took the risk, and here we are. In New Mexico, progressive legislators proposed the, quote, Immigrant Safety Act to protect those here illegally by attempting to close detention centers created for people breaking our laws. If they do close, citizens in these counties, to include Otero, could face financial devastation. This is a blatant attempt at pandering to those here illegally. Pandering involves giving people exactly what they want in a way that exploits their faults rather than leading or guiding them responsibly, all for political gains. This is the upside-down world we live in today. Thank you.
Hello, how you doing? My name is Tommy Black. The reason I want to come up here today, because I know that there's always a recurring events that happen here at the city council meeting where sooner or later someone's going to come up and talk about the displeasure and the job that Chief Story is doing as the chief of police. Now, I, as a citizen of Las Cruces, New Mexico, I refuse to beat down on the person that's actually trying to help our youth, which is a lot more than I can say about a bunch of other people in town. So to all those people that always come up here complaining about Chief Story, my question to you is, what is your plan to make the situations better for the youth in this area? And the reason that I'm asking that question is, when I grew up, I was told that it takes a village to make the village better. So that means it takes all of us to work together. Not one time have I ever looked in the dictionary and saw it takes a village and I saw Chief Story's picture. That just didn't happen. So right now, we have to, as adults, start having self-accountability. You know, when we wake up in the morning and we check the mirror, the reflection we see is us. We don't see Chief Story. And to be totally honest with you, if I did see Chief Story, I would call the police on Chief Story because I have faith in what those guys would do. But right now, we need our adults in this area to stand up. We need to work together to make the situation better for our youth. All this complaining has to go out the window because when we steadily pointing fingers at other people, we never notice that there's 3 fingers pointing back at us. So every week or every day that we don't have a plan to help our kids and we kick that can down the street, at the end of the day, what we're really doing is failing our kids. So now we have to ask ourselves this question. Do we want to be a part of the problem or do we want to be a part of the solution? Right now, we need to stop all this complaining. I go online, we fuss about ICE, no ICE. We fuss about Republicans, we fuss about Democrats, but nobody is giving that exact same energy what we need to help our kids out. So take that energy that you have. Let's all sit down as adults together, and let's not rely on the city council and Chief Story. As citizens, we can make some stuff happen, and we can bring them in later. So if you're really serious, and I'm talking to the people that's on the cameras looking at me, if you're really serious about helping our kids, let's sit down without them and come up with a plan, then bring them in. All this old fuss and stuff, man, those jobs are occupied. Let's do a new job and sit down as adults in this area and make the situation better. We're talking about our future leaders of America that we are failing right now, and we're coming up on the year anniversary of the Young Park shooting, and we are in the exact same situation we're in now, complaining and fussing. We don't need no more reality TV shows. We don't need no love and hip hop. We need people that's really going to do something to help these kids. Thank y'all for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Now I'm going to limp back. It might take a minute, so I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, City Council, Mayor Pro Tem, everyone that is here today. My name is Yoli Diaz, and I am here today because some of you might have noticed that I'm kind of bombarding your emails. And I kind of want to give you a reason why. And a way to kind of do that is I am going to read from a public input that I did here at City of Las Cruces almost 2 years ago, February 5th, 2024. I did that because there was a new mayor and a new mayor pro tem. And really, when I started my advocating, there's only one of you that sits in the dais that is still here today. So we have a new attorney from when I started, a new city manager, new city councils. And so what's important is the history as to why I'm doing what I'm doing, because the history is extremely pertinent. And I hope that who I'm speaking to sees themselves as leaders and takes that leadership to heart and understands that Yoli's bombarding my email, but maybe, just maybe, I should take the time and read these emails because I'm going to be bombarding it more. But today I'm going to read as far as I can because I know I only have a minute and 38 seconds, just to give you an idea of what I said 2 years ago prior to the NBC National News, prior to the Attorney General coming in here and launching an investigation on Memorial Medical Center, and prior to the City of Las Cruces sending a letter of default to Memorial Medical Center. It's very, very important. I tend to feel that things are happening, but we don't know what's happening, right? So I'm going to read this because there's something really, really pertinent to what I said almost 2 years ago. I'll get as far as I can. My name is Yoli Diaz. I will begin with my asks. There are 4. 1, I ask that you put the issues of accessing hospital care at Memorial Medical Center on your next agenda, since there is now a new mayor and a new mayor pro tem. 2, I again requesting a meeting with each council member. 3, since I have continued to receive calls from residents who need access to cancer treatment, a potentially fatal disease, I'm asking each of you again to please consider the healthcare fund proposal I provided you in October 2023. However, that needs a lot more than that. 4, create a joint powers agreement with Doña Ana County, similar to the Animal Service Center, to provide health and human services and oversight in healthcare. And I'm going to repeat that. 4, create a joint powers agreement with Doña Ana County, similar to the Animal Service Center, to provide health and human services and oversight in healthcare. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, Jim Wilcox. Today I speak as a member of the Metropolitan Planning Organization Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, BPAC, representing cyclists. Much has been presented here about a global effort to reduce pedestrian and bicycle fatalities through a program called Vision Zero. But there seems to be something that is impeding its local adoption. I have evidence as to one reason why that is. At the December BPAC meeting, a mother of 2 with a special needs child spoke before the committee. She expressed concern for her children's safety as they rode bikes on the streets. She wanted to know why, if other states have adopted Vision Zero practices and lowered fatalities, then why hasn't the state of New Mexico done the same? In asking this, the mother of 2 directed her question to a staffer from the MPO, leading to a back and forth between the two. This unusual exchange during a public comment period actually revealed something that I present to you today. In responding to this parent, the MPO staffer expressed that he did not speak for the state of New Mexico, but speculated as to why the state was not actively pursuing Vision Zero goals. He said if the state of New Mexico sets goals to reach Vision Zero, and I quote, "There are punitive sanctions in the law for failing to meet these targets. And so the state of New Mexico has been concerned about the likely inevitability of failing to meet the targets if the targets are set at Vision Zero," end quote. This succinctly describes the situation. The state will not be adopting Vision Zero targets because they could be negative consequences for failing to reach them. Meanwhile, the state continues with the highest rate of pedestrian and bicycle fatalities. Are we trading lives for protection against punitive sanctions because we don't want to reach the Vision Zero goals? What do we tell a parent who has a child injured or killed in a road incident? Do we say, well, we sympathize with your loss, but we did avoid sanctions by keeping our objectives moderate? Given that this body cannot affect the state actions, it can do something locally. I recommend this body be a model for the state and fully embrace Vision Zero goals. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Councilors. I'm Jennifer Cry, and I'm just here to wish you good luck and a safe trip up to the Roundhouse to get a lot of money for our city, and I cannot wait to hear how much money you get toward the library expansion and improvements. I'm sure you'll do it. Thank you.
My name is Fred Huff. At the last city council meeting, I spoke with gratitude about the new park rangers and LCPD officers working at clearing out most of the 11 illegal encampments that were in the Burn Lake area. The trash and other litter that accumulates and blows throughout the neighborhood is incredible. Not to mention the fire danger that these encampments pose with their illegal campfires. On December 23rd, 2020, We had to abandon our house for several hours because the people living in the bottom of the lake bed set it on fire. The smoke completely hid our house at times. We did not know if we were going to have a house to return to when the fire was out. If the wind would have been blowing from the north that day, the smoke would have blown across I-10 and possibly caused a massive pileup with fatalities. When Councilor Bencomo spoke at that meeting after my talk 2 weeks ago, she just happened to have references to the American Planning Association magazine and said it talked about the cost of criminalizing homelessness through camping bans and strongly implied that encampment sweeps are a waste of taxpayer dollars. Whoa! Enforcing the laws concerning trespassing on city and private property is a waste of taxpayer dollars? Wow! How many houses have burned in this city in the last few years that were set by trespassers living in them? Are the city parks open for camping 24/7? There just happens to be already a city ordinance that answers that question. Under Chapter 20, Parks and Recreation, we have Section 20-28, Operating Policy. A, city parks shall be open from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. So, people are not supposed to be in the parks 24/7. What is happening right now in Las Cruces is these people are inhumanely being kept in their situation through free handouts. What we need to is be giving them a hand up and help them break the shackles of dependency by taking responsibility for their lives. Many other cities have successfully enacted public camping ordinances to address this problem. I do not believe that camping ordinances are designed to criminalize homelessness. They just give the police and others the tools needed to help these people start changing their lives for the better if they want to. And yes, a big question is, where do they go? I totally believe it is very inhumane to keep pushing these unfortunate people from one spot to another. And we'll talk about a possible solution later. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Hurst. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. We are human beings before we are Americans. We are human beings before we are aliens and before we are citizens. We were endowed with certain inalienable rights without countries. We established countries and governments to maintain those inalienable rights. We have, one of our rights is the pursuit of happiness. What does the pursuit of happiness mean, counselors, if it doesn't mean the right to migrate, to travel the face of this earth to find the best home for us and our families? That is a basic human right. I'm here because my ancestors chose America as the place they would build their lives. They came, they had nothing, as far as I know, and they succeeded. They listened to America when it said, "Give me your huddled masses yearning to breathe free," and they came, they breathed free, and they prospered. That's why we're the most successful nation in the world, because people heard our call to come here and to prosper, and they did. Why are we closing the gates? It works. Telling the world to come here to America, to make your life here and to prosper here worked. It worked for 250 years. And all of a sudden, immigrants are bad and evil, and we have to treat them with scorn. And the Americans that show sympathy by standing up to ICE in their illegal activities, you can't claim shelter from the law as law enforcement officials unless you're wearing a uniform and you're not wearing a mask and all that other crap they're pulling. Real officers use warrants. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, and Chief of Police, Tim Jenkins. I would like to thank the City Council and the Chief of Police for the collaboration on getting the park rangers not only hired on, but also trained and out in the field in a timely manner. I would like to address a major concern in our city right now concerning the homeless population. And before any member on City Council even thinks about suggesting that we are trying to criminalize poverty, I would like to say that that is as far from the truth as could possibly be. We are actually dedicated to the safety of our city and to the well-being of all. I would like to bring to your attention a situation that unfolded this week with a homeless encampment at the dirt lot just between Red Lobster and Farley's. There was an extra large tent set up on the private property with massive amounts of trash and garbage and mattresses, etc., covering the lot. It was called in, and LCPD trespassed the 7 individuals that were in the tent doing drugs and gave them 24 hours to vacate or they would be criminally trespassed. 12 hours later, another officer in charge of that area for the day was out assessing the situation. While we were out talking in the Red Lobster parking lot, the individual that owned the tent began yelling at the officer that the officer had no business being there, and not only did he need more than 24 hours to vacate, but also that he had been in this city for 3 years now and should be allowed to set up camp wherever he wanted to in this city and should be left alone and not be bothered by anyone. I'm not trying to be rude or insensitive in any way here, but the mentality of these individuals is that they own this place. They refuse to follow the laws of the land and to use crosswalks and exercise proper street crossing, especially all the way up and down Loman. They cross whenever and wherever they want at any given time, and we're just supposed to slam on our brakes in the middle of oncoming traffic to let them do as they please. And it's been suggested here in council chambers that we're going to change the crosswalk there by the Gospel Rescue Mission for their safety, but they don't even use crosswalks as is. What is the point? After spending a day with Greg Hull, the mayor of Rio Rancho, which is, by the way, the safest city in New Mexico, I highly suggest to council that we consider adopting practices that will actually make our city safe again. I have major concerns about the direction we're going here in Las Cruces. It seems to only get worse and worse with no actual real resolve. We need to be giving these folks a hand up, not a hand out. By the policies in place, it seems we're willing to keep these individuals shackled in poverty and not provide them with the resources they truly need to be able to contribute to society and to provide them with the resources to be able to help themselves. These individuals seriously need mental health resources to help them rehabilitate to life. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Pro Tem, Council. Chris Apodaca is my name. I'm from Las Cruces, born here, big family. I moved to Los Angeles when I was 11 years old, became a child actor. I worked in television and film up until I was 20 years old. I became a talent agent when I was 22. I had to withdraw from college because I had a dream job that came my way. Unfortunately, the job positions require a college degree. I worked as an agent for 25 years and worked in production for 15 years. A-list actors, A-list directors, and I've been trying to get connected here
for probably 12 years now. And I know Senator Steinborn, and he's very nice, and I consider him a friend. The only types of jobs that I can get are non-paying jobs, and I don't work for free. I've been doing this my whole life. If you want production to come here, if you're really serious, you got to get people that are connected, that are going to bring. I know a lot of things have happened over the last few years. I know that in the time that all this has happened, I would have had at least 3 or 4 TV shows filming here in Las Cruces. Studio or not studio, it doesn't matter. I'd like to give my number to anybody at any point in time in this. I have a proposal coming from me and who I know in Hollywood. I could give you a list of probably 100 stars and 50 big-time directors that I've worked with. I'm working with A24 in Los Angeles. I'm working with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's company, Artist Equity, Mark Wahlberg in Las Vegas, Summerlin Studios in Las Vegas. I don't have any trouble getting work out of town, and I'd like to bring it here. I like living here. You know, any day, if something opens up for me in another state, I will move on. But I'm very interested in making things happen here. That's it. Thank you for your time. Mayor?
Next, we'll need acceptance of agenda.
Move to accept.
Second. This is on the motion to accept the agenda as presented. Councillor McClure?
Yes.
Councillor Matisse?
Yes.
Councillor Harris?
Yes.
Councillor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councillor Coran? Yes. Councillor Munoz?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Yes. Next, we'll move on to resolutions for discussion. Resolution item 7.1, resolution number 26-099, a resolution authorizing a contract with Single Space Strategies of Albuquerque.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, Donnie.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Councilors, and City staff. My name is Donnie Procyse, Purchasing Supervisor for the Financial Services Department, and before you is a resolution to authorize a contract for the City Strategic Plan Update. The City of Las Cruces utilizes a City Strategic Plan for guiding the city's priorities, resource management, and decision-making processes over the next several years. The current strategic plan, adopted in 2021, is due for an update to reflect evolving community needs and city council priorities and ensure continued alignment with the long-term vision outlined in the 2020 Elevate Las Cruces Comprehensive Plan. The intent of this process is to balance the community's long-term vision, available resources, and city council's near-term priorities to produce a plan that is both clear and implementable. This updated strategic plan will directly facilitate the organization's efforts to translate strategic priorities into tangible outcomes while supporting the city's comprehensive plan, Elevate Las Cruces, and guiding meaningful community improvement. The city envisions a newly adopted plan after a 12-month planning process. The final document will incorporate best practices in strategic planning, embrace innovative techniques, and set clear and achievable priorities. It will be a living document supporting the city's ongoing efforts to serve the community and advance its vision. The city's purchasing program issued request for proposals number 25-26-025 on September 19th, 2025, to hire a consultant to develop the new city strategic plan. 4 proposals were received and evaluated by the Selection Advisory Committee on November 19th, 2025, and the SAC is recommending award to Single Space Strategies of Albuquerque, New Mexico. The Community Development Department is requesting authorization to contract with Single Space Strategies for a term of 1 year in an amount not to exceed $145,000 plus applicable taxes, subject to approved budget appropriations. With that, these are your council options, and I stand for questions, and Community Development Director Chris Favor is also here to address any questions that he may need to.
Thank you, Donnie. Any questions from council? Councilor Curran.
Thank you. I just have a quick question related to this being a CD proposal. Is that my sense is this is citywide strategic planning, but since like 244 of the 500 or whatever goals that were outlined in Elevate were part of Realize, that's partly why it's in this domain? Or can you tell me what the sort of relationship is? Or is this just related to things that have to do with CD?
Mayor, Councilor Cran, Chris Favor, Community Development Director for the record. It's part of CD because strategic planning was reorganized back into community development this past year. So all those operations now are part of the planning team of community development.
Okay, awesome. I just ask in part because I like to talk about the fact that we have actually achieved some goals, and I'm happy that we're updating our conversations to talk about that. Thank you.
Seeing no other, Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 26-099. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Matisse?
Yes.
Councilor Harris?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo is abstaining. Councilor Curran? Yes. Councilor Munoz?
Yes.
And Mayor.
Yes. Next is item 7.2, resolution number 26-100, a resolution authorizing the City of Las Cruces to accept grant awards for various city departments.
Move to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor, councilors, city staff, community members. I'm Gabriela Prats. I'm the city's grant manager. And before you, I bring a resolution to accept 3 grants for 3 different departments or JPAs. The first is a grant made to from the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration to the Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley for $280,000 to replace deteriorating medical kennels and repair the uneven flooring at the Animal Services Center. As the city owns this particular building, the funds were granted to the city, and the Public Works Department will be working with Animal Services Center to get this completed. The second award is for the Mesilla Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization. This is the federal fiscal year 25-26 Unified Planning Work Program Award in the amount of almost $380,000 with a match of about $51,500. This funds the operations of the Mesilla Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization. This award through the Federal Highway Administration, through the New Mexico Department of Transportation funds the operations, and awards included are under Section 112, and there's $9,728 that are 100% federal funds, no match needed for planning and research, from planning and research funds to be used. The third grant, or rather the third is a modification number 5 to the HIDA grant from the Office of National Drug Policy to the Police Department Metro. The increase
This increase is for $95,000, almost $700, which brings the new total of that grant to $903,310. The increase funds salaries and benefits and overtime for the HIDA agencies. This particular amendment is the last modification to close out last year's grant. These are your council options, and I stand for questions.
Thank you, Gabby. Any questions from council? Seeing none, Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 26-100. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Counselor Coran?
Yes.
Counselor Munoz?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next is item 7.3, Resolution 26-101, a resolution amending the FY 2026 Capital Improvement Program.
Move to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. My name is Cynthia Lamillo, Capital Improvements Program Manager. Today, I have a few amendments for your review and approval. We have two types of amendments. One is adjustment to reflect available funds, and the second one is to reflect new funding for different CIP projects. This first slide identifies 4 projects that we are amending to reflect the funding that they have available. As the project moves forward and as we review accounts and their balances, we just make the necessary adjustments to make sure they have the funding to continue moving forward. We have legacy park renovations that will have an ending balance of 1.5, skate park improvements for an ending balance of $403,000, playground renovations, total of 1.1, and lawn acquisition planning and design for parks for a total of $293,000. The second batch of projects that follows the same category, where we're amending the project balance to reflect what they have available to move forward. We have utilities projects with gas development for a total of 2.5, water projects for 15 million, and wastewater projects for 16 million. This is the second set of category for CIP amendments, which are amendments to reflect new funding. These 2 utilities projects is receiving funding in the terms of loans. So we have one for Drinking Water State Revolving Loan Fund, usually is well known as the WSRF for 15, and the Water Project Fund, known as WPF loan, for 3 million. This is the next round of amendments to reflect projects that are receiving new funding. This is a correction we're making to the Museum of Natural Arts and Science that received capital outlay in 2005 for $445,000. So we're making the correction to place the funding in the correct program, so they can move forward. To learn more about this project, I would like to invite Garland Courts with Quality of Life Deputy Museum Director, so we can learn more about this.
Good afternoon. Garland Courts, Deputy Director for Quality of Life. Good afternoon, Mayor Enriquez and City Council. I was given the opportunity to kind of give you a very brief update on this project. Last year we got legislative appropriation for this project, and we just got funded late last year, and so we're ready to go on this project. The photograph that you have there, of course, is everybody kind of knows it's been in that building. That's our nature center. We have all kinds of displays of animals from the Chihuahuan Desert. And this is the area where we're going to use that money to enhance the building. The next picture here is the back room, which most people don't get to see. You saw the other side of the room, but this is where the action happens, where our staff takes care of the animals. So a lot of people don't know it, but we've got close to 100 animals that are in the nature center. It takes a lot of work to keep them on display and keep them alive and keep them active. So not all of them are on display at the same time. We have to rotate them out. So some are in the back room there and getting a little vacation, if you will, from being on display. So what we're going to do with that money is you can see the flooring's kind of a tile floor that's got grout. That's not great when you're working with aquatic tanks and heavy tanks that you need to move. So we're going to kind of have a flush surface there that's for safety of our staff, that's non-slip. It's going to allow us to push the water out that gets on the floor and make it a much better space for our staff, most of all, that they can do the job that they need to do. So we are dividing this into two sections. We're going to fix the back house of the nature center there. You can see lots of electrical wires. We're going to get that all cleaned up. We have all kinds of electrical devices. We have heat lamps, regular lights, water pumps, everything you need for an aquatic environment back there. So we'll get all that kind of tidied up and a little bit easier to use for our staff. And then the next project will be looking at the exterior. We want to make sure that all of our visitors can see the animals that we have on display, maybe increase some of the window sizes. You can see just some little kids there that are on that. So we do have viewing areas that are low down, we have mid-range, and we have taller ones, so that every visitor that comes in has access to the animals. They can see it better. So we're going to work on that. We'll be doing some interactives that the kids love. We bring them in with those animals. People come back very often to see the animals and stuff, but then we can kind of tell the story, talk about desert culture, the desert terrain, things that are happening in that, climate, water needs, and talk about pollution, things like that, things that affect the animals in the area. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. We have 3 years to spend the money, but we're looking at getting it done within 2 years with very little interruption for people visiting the animals. We'll try and have them off display as little as possible so everybody can enjoy the animals, because that's what they come for. The Monas is our most visited museum. We had 57,000 in fiscal year 25, and lots of them, the animals are rock stars, so they come often for that. I'll stand if you have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Garland. With that, council, these are your standard questions for this amendment.
Councilor Matisse?
Page 4, and then maybe the utility director or you could explain specifically on the gas development, what's being implemented with that, what's actually developing. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were so far.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Councilor Matisse. My name is Dominic Rodriguez, Assistant Utilities Director. The $1 million is for the Del Rey high pressure project. And so we have in the winter time have had low pressure in this line, and so we need to rehabilitate it, and then I think they're going to also connect it and loop it. And so it's really about the pressure dropping to our customers are not able to receive gas during the winter months. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Councilor Harris.
Thanks. Next slide, slide 5. Yep. Same question. If you could give some background about what these projects are since they're new.
Sure. Mayor, Councilor Harris, Dominic Rodriguez, Assistant Utilities Director. The Drinking Water State Revolving Fund loan is money that we received for lead and copper. That includes design, replacement, construction, and so that's the 15 million one. The one below it is the Water Project Fund, which we asked for from Water Trust Board, and that is for the Telshore Tank rehabilitation.
Cool, thanks.
You're welcome.
Seeing no other, Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 26-101. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Counselor Coran?
Yes.
Counselor Munoz?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next is item 7.4, Council Bill number 26-014, ordinance number 3106, an ordinance amending Chapter 23, Section 2336, Police Service Aids.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Let me see if I can turn it into a slideshow. Christine, F5, right? Got it. All right. So just a quick recap, because I know that we discussed this not too long ago at a work session, but basically, if approved, this amendment would allow our police service aides, who actually already are assisting with traffic investigations, crash investigations, to at crash sites, issue citations where appropriate. As you all know, the practice right now is that the PSAs will assist with the crash reports, taking the driver's information, so on and so forth. But if there are actually citations that need to be issued, such as no driver's license, no insurance, no registration, due care collision, they will have to wait on scene for a commissioned officer to show up and issue those citations. Just a reminder, if approved, PSAs would still not have arrest authority, but they would be able to issue those traffic citations, with the goal hopefully being to reduce strain on our commissioned officers, and so that they would have the bandwidth to engage in, I don't want to say more important, but more serious matters. We went over at the work session how our percentage of crash reports taken by police service aides have steadily increased over the years. You see in 2023, we were at roughly 1,100 reports taken by our PSAs with an approximate 28.72%. We go on to 2024, that number increased to approximately 2,000 reports taken by PSAs, and we actually see that in 2024, we started to see a majority of those reports were taken by our PSAs. And then last year, the trend continued with approximately 2,200, give or take, reports taken by our PSAs, with an approximate 2/3 rate at this point. As I just mentioned, the proposed edits or amendments include authorizing PSAs to investigate traffic crashes resulting in up to minor injury. Of course, anything involving death or great bodily harm would still be within the purview of commissioned officers. And to allow those PSAs to issue traffic citations under our municipal code during their post-accident investigations. Again, no arrest authority on behalf of the PSAs, even if amended. Like I stated earlier, the rationale is hopefully this would lead to increased efficiency, with commissioned officers not having to respond to minor accidents. Something that I think is important is that it would also lead to a decrease in encounters between commissioned officers and citizens here in our community based on minor traffic accidents. And your council options are to vote yes to amend the code as proposed, to vote no to deny said amendment. You can vote to amend with direction to city staff with regard to the amendments that you would like to see, or you can vote to table this item, and myself and Lieutenant, by the way, I never introduced myself, Brad Douglas for the record, City Attorney, and I'm here with Lieutenant Cody Austin. And we'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Brad. Any questions? Councilor Coran?
Thank you, and forgive me for not asking this in the prior work session. I've just been thinking about when we had our budget discussions, one of the traffic solutions and something that's being discussed in the legislature is related to speed cameras. And I know that part of our historic conversation about this is that we would have to have a specific officer who validates every data point from something like a speed camera to issue those things. Would this be something that a PSA could fulfill or not, is my very specific question. And if not, that's fine, but that would be something that I would ask if we could venture to consider.
That's a good question. With regard to the speed cameras particularly, I am not sure. I would have to let Chief Story answer that.
Go ahead, Chief.
Good afternoon, Jeremy Story, Police Chief. Mayor, Councilor Cran, I believe under state statute it has to be a commissioned police officer that reviews and then issues that citation.
Okay, thank you. I thought perhaps it was a state law, but if it was possible for us to do that, I would want us to do that too. So thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor, City Councilors, Chief Story, what's the head count for the police service aides? Do you have a rough estimate? Or, sorry, yeah, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Cody Austin, the Specialty Lieutenant. Currently, we have 9 PSAs full-time.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant.
Okay, seeing none other questions, Christine?
This is on the motion to approve ordinance 3106. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Matisse?
Yes.
Councilor Harris?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Coran?
Yes.
Councilor Munoz?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Yes. Next is item 7.5, Council Bill number 26-015, ordinance number 3107, an ordinance terminating the project participation agreement with 828 Productions.
Move to approve?
Second.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Elizabeth Teeters, and I'm here to talk to you about the proposed cancellation of the city's portion of 828 Productions LIDA. To first start out, I want to talk about cinematic infrastructure and where these funds came from. Back in 2016, capital outlay funds were designated in the amount of about $900,000 to plan, design, construct, furnish, and equip infrastructure that directly supports film and digital media. And right after that, the City Council at the time designated hold harmless funds in the amount of $2.8 million to support the effort. And the purpose of these funds was to bring in a film studio to Las Cruces to support the film industry. So this LEDA, Local Economic Development Act, was first adopted in March of 2023. At that time, the city used the $897,000 from the capital outlay funds, and the state of New Mexico came in with $3 million. After that, there were 2 different amendments to designate the $2.8 million for the hold harmless funds and to put it to specific properties. So all of the cinematic infrastructure funds were put towards this project. We received a request for reimbursement in March of 2025, and we noticed with it that there was limited supporting documentation, and there was an overall concern that funds were used for upkeep and not towards the purpose and intent of the project. So a few weeks later, we requested supporting documentation, which we received from 828 in June of 2028 for that specific request for reimbursement. While this is all going on, it was time for the annual performance review, which is required by the LEDA statute and by the ordinance. It gives the opportunity for the city and the project to sit down together and talk about how the project is going. The company can talk about any difficulties they're having. The city may request data and information to assess the broader economic impact of the project, but the company shall not be required to divulge information or documents it considers confidential or proprietary. So we took the opportunity with the annual performance review, and we decided we were going to do a full review of all the invoices. We were going to do an internal review, and we also asked 828 to provide support to the work that they have completed. We gave them a document of bullet points, and here's just a few of them. So we were looking for project milestones in the progress report, the economic impact, community and site management, how things were going actually on the ground. Some forward-looking statements, so what the work would be done in the next year or so, and when we should expect more reimbursements, and any reflections and requests, any ways we could possibly assist them. And so we gave them a deadline of June 30th, which is when what's in the actual ordinance, but we received no documentation for this review. So out of this, the request for reimbursement and the annual performance review, a lot of concerns came out, which got put in the document that was sent to 828. Overall, the request for reimbursement fit within the broad scope of the funds expenditure list, which is an attachment in the amendment. But if you look at the individual expenditures on each invoice, they do not align with the categories within that expenditure list. This is something that staff should have caught. This is something that staff should have made them go back and put it in the right place. So I am owning up to that. It is unfortunate. It is just a technicality within the grand scope of things, but there's a chance that things could be different right now. Within that also, South Miranda has been fully expended, and only 4 of the 21 categories within the expenditure list were actually utilized. And when looking back in the reimbursements, as they went on, we saw more for monthly expenses, repairs, and upkeep, even though they were sprinkled throughout. And we also saw planning and design and minimal construction. Over 60% of the funds that we gave to 828 was for planning and design or consultation. When we met with them to talk about this annual review process, we said, show us the plans. Show us if there's plans or construction done with those plans, show us. If there's landscaping done, tell us where the landscaping is and we'll go look at it. But again, we received no documentation. And finally, when legal got brought into the whole process, they made a recommendation that the payment schedule align with the PPA. So with LEDAs up to this point, we have always reimbursed incrementally if they have the expenses to go with it. But it was decided from this point on that we would only reimburse if the entire benchmark or tranche is completely satisfied. The whole point of this process was to try to get a level playing field to be able to complete the project with everybody on the same page. And also, I just want to note that our partners at the New Mexico Film Office and the New Mexico Economic Development Department have been involved throughout this entire process. And I actually have a statement from them. The New Mexico Film Office and the New Mexico Economic Development Department have worked closely with the City of Las Cruces throughout the duration of this agreement and support the city's authority to make decisions it determines are in the best interest of its community and the responsible use of its city funds. So they were brought on early in May and in June, and we have kept them up to date throughout this entire process. So if you go back to the PPA, which is a project participation agreement, it is the main point in the main document within an ALEDA agreement. There are goals and objectives within it. It states the objective of this agreement is to create and support an economic development project that fosters, promotes, and enhances local economic development efforts. At this point, going through everything we went through, we did not feel like that was being done. So through the annual performance review, there is a requirement that said the city can terminate. So we notified on August 15th of 2025, we notified 828 of our pending cancellation. The next 60 days, we did 2 30-day extensions with 828 with the purpose of coming up to a middle ground and finding a PPA amendment that worked for everybody. At the end of September, the city proposed ours to them, and included in that was reimbursement based on completion of phases of construction, so we can see more tangible items of when things were getting done. We also updated the job creation clawback, because this one is very vague in this agreement. And finally, we gave stricter annual review expectations. Again, with our lessons learned, we felt like it was necessary. On October 19th, 828 sent us a counter PPA amendment. They were asking for all funds to go towards 106 South Miranda in phases. They asked for the job creation to be changed from 100 to 45 full-time jobs. But the production spend go up from $350 million to $405 million. And they also removed the clawback and annual review sections. And it was so close to the deadline, and we were so far apart in our amendments that we just decided to let it expire. So now I want to talk about clawbacks. So within the agreement, there's always your benchmarks, your tranches, what you're supposed to meet. But there's also other parts that a company needs to be accountable for. There's job creation. In this case, there's production spend, there's facility closure, there's an economic impact analysis. So it doesn't matter where the money went originally. If they are not meeting these other parts of the agreement, the city has the ability to claw back those funds. And throughout this entire process, we found 2 clawbacks. The first being the economic impact analysis. It is due every year on February 28th to the State Economic Development Department. And failure to do so by April 15th shall be subject to a 10% clawback of all funds received. On July 10th of 2025, NMEDD emailed 828 addressing their failure to meet the deadline and requested clawbacks, and the data was sent to NMEDD 4 days later. The second clawback is the facilities closure clawback. It's a failure to produce product for a period of 90 days or failure to occupy the facility. If it is only temporary, they have the opportunity to show us how it's going to be resolved. But if it's complete, like closure of operations, they're supposed to notify the city within 10 days. So on November 4th, staff learned that 828 defaulted on 300 South Compress in August of 2025, and the city has given over $1.1 million to that property. And before I go to this ordinance, I just want to state that economic development comes with risk. LEDAs come with risk. We've had some great projects in the past. Saputo's a really good example. But there has to be checks and balances. That's why we have the annual economic impact analysis, the annual review, the quarterly jobs. But also that's why we have clawbacks. I mean, nobody wants to use clawbacks, but people have to be accountable for city money, for public dollars. So with that being said, this ordinance is to terminate the city's contribution to this project, and it authorizes the staff to require and seek clawbacks. But we will continue to be the fiscal agents for the $3 million in state funds unless it is decided to terminate the LEDA in its entirety. And with that, I stand for questions.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Any questions from council? Councilor Harris.
Thanks. So I was wanting a clarification on how much money we're asking to actually claw back. I see that we're relieving ourselves of future obligations, and there's this 10% clawback, and so do you have a number?
Yeah, Mayor, Councilor Harris. So we have given approximately $1.8 million. We're asking for 2 clawbacks, which is the 10% for the economic impact analysis and the 100% for the facility closure that the funds went to for that facility. So the total is about $1.3 million.
Okay, and just to emphasize the point, we are continuing to be fiscal agents for the state side of this. This is just the city's portion.
That is correct.
Yeah. Thanks.
Councilor, Mayor Pro Tem.
Elizabeth, the state and the city provided monies on what seemed to be a good proposal from 828 Productions. So the state, let me just review, the state committed $3 million, and the city dispersed, as you said, $1.8 million. As I understood as well, 828 promised to develop a studio complex investing $75 million of their own money. Have you seen that investment, or where are we with that?
Mayor Pro Tem. So according to the data and the economic impact analysis submitted by 828 last year, they have invested a little over $3.5 million.
Okay. So 828 also promised hundreds of jobs for Las Cruces, and that number you're proposing to change, to go down. How many have they hired?
Mayor Pro Tem. So in the annual performance review, or the economic impact analysis, 828 put in their documentation that they had 15 jobs. I asked the State Economic Development Department, and Q3 of this past year, they had 10, and Q4, they had 9.
So 9 employees from Las Cruces? Or is that determined?
I will have to get back to you.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Thank you. Thank you. And then 828 was supposed to also bring about $350 million in production revenue. I know that number has also been adjusted. On that amount, what have you seen there, or what's the trajectory?
Mayor Pro Tem, so again, this goes back to the the impact, the document they did, which was almost a year ago at this point. But direct spend was 1.2 million, which means that, from the way I understand it, it's production specifically with 828. And indirect is 104 million, which is them partnering or giving their facilities to other production companies.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. And as an entrepreneur and a business person, I understand the weight of having employees and driving an enterprise, whether it's 3 or 30 or 3,000 employees. That weight is heavy because not only are we supporting those employees, we're supporting the families that those employees have. How is the communication back and forth? Because results obviously are critical, communication is important, and obviously making sure that there are results is also important, not just to the enterprise, not just to that corporation or that business, but to the families of those employees.
Mayor Pro Tem, when this started early on, I started keeping a log of all the communications back and forth, whether it be email, phone call, meetings itself, and this doesn't include all of Mr. Henry Becker's communications. I have a document of over 50 communications between us since March.
Okay. Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay. And it sounds like, just in transparency, that you're doing a debrief or going back and doing a forensics of any gaps that we had on our side as a city. So I appreciate you and your team doing that and making us aware of your concerns. Thank you.
And Mayor Pro Tem, I meant to bring this up just to discuss the steps that I've taken with my department. So we now have a designated employee to go through all agreements. And so this person, whether it be our partner agreements, LEDAs, ARPA agreements, before we pay out any reimbursements, they're the person that's going to be looking through all the documents. We're also going to be working with legal to come up with our own PPA template. We've done it with the state for a majority of years. But through this process, we have learned that while we have goals that are similar, we have goals that are different as well. So we want to put that into the document and put what our expectations are. And the last step we're taking is an annual performance review. We're formalizing it. We're going to make sure that the company knows exactly what their expectations are every year to move forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor McComb.
Me? Thank you. Sorry, I did not hear very well. Thank you, Elizabeth. I, first of all, just want to acknowledge that I can tell this feels heavy for you, and I know that it is. I'm sure it wasn't easy to get here, and so I really do want to acknowledge that from your point and staff's point. Since I've been on the council, I've been through several LEDAs, and I think since I've been here, only one other one has had to be, I don't even think it was a clawback at that point. I don't even think anything was, it was just like canceled. And so, you know, and so I know that the private-public partnerships are hard. They take a lot of work, and the expectations, you know, that standard is very high, and it should go both ways, right? From what the other person should expect from us in terms of communication and responsiveness and all of that, and the other way around as well, because this is public dollars, right? And due diligence must be met. So I just want to acknowledge that, and I think that's sort of the way I'm approaching this, because, you know, I promise I'll land the plane on this in a second. I often think about how much in public dollars a project, for example, like Spaceport America has received millions of dollars in public dollars that could have been used for anything else. And we're just sort of waiting and waiting to get back some sort of benefit that was promised to our community. Meanwhile, we are giving millions of dollars away. And to me, that's, quite frankly, to me, that's very frustrating. And I expect that when we go into these kinds of agreements, that the person receiving these funds will understand the impact and the heaviness of that these are public dollars. And often I have come to find that it is lose-lose for the city. Whether we are incredibly strict and tight and little flexibility, then we are not business friendly. If we are a little bit flexible, if we maybe say, okay, we'll extend it, then we end up in audit trouble, right? And so it is often lose-lose. And it's difficult to make decisions out of that place, and it's difficult to arrive at places like this. So I want to acknowledge all of those things because it then makes conversations like this, honestly, to me, a little bit easier because, you know, what I see out in the public isn't what I thought we were promised. And it's just not hard to see. It's there. It's like the tangible pieces are there. So anyway, I just wanted to caveat that before I ask you a couple of questions. On page 12, Elizabeth, I think it was page 12. Were you given a reasoning behind the job creation from 100 to 45, yet the production spend increasing like this? Were you given, what was the reason behind that?
Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, I'm going to turn it over to Henry.
Mayor, Councilor, thank you for the question. So the PPA amendments were sent back and forth between myself and council for 828. At the time, we had agreed to a second 30-day extension. I want to say we were within 5 days of that second extension ending when I received this counter proposal. And at the time, looking at it, it was so far below our own expectations that I think I responded, and this is just my memory, I think I responded to council for 828 that this is just not going to work. So there was an investigation as to why they proposed those terms. So I take responsibility for not having an answer on that.
Thanks, Henry. I appreciate that. And then, Elizabeth, on this, from the state letter that you read, when did you receive that?
Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, I received that on Friday, but I was in communication with them daily all week.
Okay, thank you. And then just, you know, I assume there's going to be some public comment about the impact of the film industry and what this could mean and the sky is falling kind of conversations. But I am curious if you could speak to Film Las Cruces and the impact that Film Las Cruces has had, you know, in our partnership with them.
Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, so while we have been in contact with NMEDD and the State Film Office, we have been keeping Film Las Cruces apprised of this situation, but we have purposely kept them at arm's length because this is their job. They have to be able to do it on a daily basis. And so, let me see, I do have, so they have provided some data points that I will, I'll just share. So in 2023, there were 10 productions, 4 of them feature films. In 2024, 14 productions in Las Cruces, 7 of which were feature films. And in 2025, there were 17 productions and 9 of them feature films. And they did tell me that only 2 of those feature films were 828.
So those are all Film Las Cruces,
Yes.
Led by.
Yeah, they're part of the process.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I mean, anecdotally, I appreciate that because anecdotally, I could say I get emails from Film Las Cruces all the time about this is happening and this is happening and this production is happening. So I just wanted to get some real numbers out there, Elizabeth. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks. Councilor Matisse.
Elizabeth, I was just going to go back and ask you, is it a new hire or a new position? Sounds like a compliance type.
Mayor, Councilor Matisse, it's an existing employee. We recently went through a little bit of a reorg within the department, and with that, we moved one person. While they have other tasks, they will be doing this compliance work.
Okay, and then just to tag on with the city manager, I believe we hired a compliance officer position. Is that correct? We have that in the works, or?
Mayor, Councilor Matisse, that is in discussion, but we do not currently have that position.
Okay. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. I know through the city clerk, there's some representative of 828 that wanted to speak. Are they in the audience? Is there anyone from 828? Yeah, normally in discussion items, any of the public participation is 2 minutes, but we'll give you 3 to 5 minutes so you can speak on behalf of 828.
Thank you, Mayor, councilors. My name is Joseph Dworak. I represent 828 Productions. I want to, before I give my presentation, I understand there were a few individuals that wanted to speak as members of the public, and they were told to speak during public comment during this period. So I'd like to allow them to address the council first in order of priority, and then I'm hoping that my presentation on behalf of the company formally can get into more of the details of the issue on the agenda.
What I had talked with the city clerk and to get over to 828 was if they wanted to speak or do a presentation, we would allow 3 to 5 minutes from a representative. Any other members of the public that would like to speak to this, I'll give them 2 minutes, but they can't be speaking to the representation of 828. That would be you. So you can go ahead, and then anyone in the public that wishes to speak, I'll give them 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. And I'll try to be brief, and I'm happy to answer any questions Mayor or members of the council have. We were only allowed 5 minutes for this. We also requested to be able to provide a PowerPoint, and we're told that we couldn't do that. So if there's an opportunity to present the council more fully in the future, we really would appreciate that opportunity and look forward to it. So I want to start off by just quoting your last city council meeting, which was on January 20th last month, and the city manager shared, and this is a quote, "Film Las Cruces announced that Las Cruces has been named one of the best places to live and work as a movie maker in 2026. This marks the 4th year in a row that the city has been listed in the top 10 film towns in America. Great job to our filmmakers and our economic development for assisting with that." And earlier in August of 2025, Film Las Cruces report provided stellar reviews of the film industry in Las Cruces. For example, Worker Days, which had a goal of 1,000, was exceeded by over 350%, with 3,655 days. Local spending exceeded by over 1,000%. The expectation was $1 million in local spending, and there was over 10 million, and this is from 2024. The number that was provided by your economic development team, I want to highlight that $10 million in those number of productions is important because in just 1 year, and it was a production that went from over 2 years, it started in December of 2024 and went through January of 2025, which was done by 828, had over $15 million in production spend. So this number that all of these other production companies, they're all important, but 828, in terms of size, in terms of dollar amount, blows these numbers out of the water. And that context is important, and we're able to provide a lot more detail of that to paint a more full picture for the city council. The local economic impact of 828, which is the whole purpose of the Local Economic Development Act and a PPA agreement, in a single year, and this was the first true year of production by 828, 828 Productions brought in over $100 million in production. It is true that not all of that was spent within Las Cruces city limits, but Netflix does not use all of their production within Bernalillo County or the city of Albuquerque either. And while, of course, it would be better, I understand, as policymakers to have that spending consolidated to the city, that is just not realistic, and that won't happen with any production company. Some of those in addition to the $100 million of production spending in 2024, there was approximately $50 million in the last year. So in the $350 million that was set as an expectation benchmark in the PPA, in 2 years of production alone, 828 met almost half of that number. There have been delays in 828 getting off the ground, primarily, and in the letter that I shared with City Council that I hope you all have, and I have copies if it would be helpful to share as well. Production was stalled for an entire year after the PPA was created because of national actor strikes and film writer strikes that affected the entire industry across the country. So there was a whole year where there was nothing happening, and that was completely outside of the control of the company, and that is also something that's not been addressed. There's been over a dozen productions since 828 started in Las Cruces. Some very large ones include Eddington, which was filmed in Truth or Consequences, but it was handled in partnership with 828 here in Las Cruces, and Protector, which was filmed entirely in Las Cruces, and it's the largest. It's been the largest film production project in the history of the city. And I think it just wrapped up post-production yesterday and is coming out in the next, I believe it's the next month. During this time, over the past 2 years, 828 has employed as cast and crew over 1,200 New Mexicans, mostly local in and around Las Cruces. And the number, I'm happy to explain the numbers that are provided here or any other questions, but I want to get through a couple points because I understand that I'm short on time. A few points to correct is that 828 did not close its facility. It made a business decision to focus and consolidate its resources on its remaining properties. It has multiple properties. We can get into those. I'm happy to provide those details in response to questions or in writing to the council. This delayed report, this economic development report, it doesn't require a clawback. It's discretional, so we would ask that the council use its discretion if it chooses to seek 10% clawback of that money. The state has not demanded a clawback of that, and I can't find an example of that clawback being imposed for a delayed report in the past either. There's also no intent shown by 828, and a lot of these issues, 828 acknowledges that it made mistakes, but it also acknowledges, just as the city has repeatedly stated, the agreement itself is vague. There's been practices by the city, lack of communication by the city, and it goes both ways. 828 acknowledges that it could have done better in the past, but these are partners, and partners can take responsibility for their own actions with each other. And again, we recognize that there are mistakes on both sides of this, and we want to move forward. My last point, if I may, what is missing in the documents that were provided to the public in your agenda packet and provided to the council for the first read of this proposed ordinance 2 weeks ago is over 350 pages. There is not a single page in this 350 pages that includes correspondence, proposals, memos, or even references to the justification or rationale provided by 828 for the concerns, proposals on how to address the concerns, and requests to meet, frankly, with the city council, a working group, or city leadership to address the problems. What is also missing, and I would direct the city council to the letters that were provided dated January 30th and January 26th, just in this past week, from our firm on behalf of 828. There is no analysis of economic impact. There just simply isn't. This information is gathered and analyzed by a paid economist at the New Mexico Economic Development Department. There is not a reference to that. There's not a reference to the indirect spending impact that 828 and its work, which is all documented, has on the local economy and the local industry. There's no analysis of what company would fill the void if this were to change the business trajectory or caused 828 to relocate elsewhere. All incredibly important things that I think as policymakers have to be considered, not only when saying additional funding isn't available, but clawing back so much money, almost $1.5 million from a startup company that's been in operation for 2 years and has 10 years to meet its goal.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr. Wall. I'll see if council has any questions for you at this time. Is there anyone? Councilor Harris.
Thanks, Michael Harris for the record. So, you know, I think I was hearing that you said the facility hasn't closed, but there are several facilities, and so I was wondering if you or our economic development could talk to the actual disposition of those facilities. You know, the purpose of this LIDA is that the city wanted to have a film studio built in Las Cruces, and that was the purpose. So what's going on at these facilities?
Sure. Mayor Enriquez and Councilor Harris, that's a really great question. And I'm not trying to be evasive. It's complicated, the question. In part, the economy surrounding the film industry across the country has changed since 2022, when 828 was enticed to come to New Mexico from California with the promise of tax incentives, which are there, and any film company in New Mexico will admit that that is often it really is the primary reason why film has a strong presence in the state, but also coordination with state and local government and available economic development funding. There was a level of urgency by policymakers. There was an announcement by the governor. There were plans shown with drawings of a film studio like something that you would see in California, with a water tower with names on it and large studios and beautiful landscaping, something that is still a dream of 828, and I could say that, but not something that would happen in 2 years. With any company. There is not the industry to support that here yet. And so the disposition of the property, many of these properties were purchased in short order, millions of dollars in properties. And 828 has made a business decision to focus on certain properties over others because the long-term planning of a large film campus is just not in the short-term business plans of the company at this time. So that property is no longer being used. We're in discussions with the seller. It was a self-financed, seller-financed real estate deal, and on behalf of the company, we are in communication with the seller to determine if 828 can take title back to the property, because that is one of the issues that's going on, is that property is no longer titled. It was never owned outright by 828, so it didn't take the property and then sell it for an investment or anything like that. It was a seller financed property.
So to clarify on your last point, the city put LIDA money toward a property with the expectation it would be developed. You no longer own said property and might not get it back to actually do that development.
Yeah, Mayor, Councilor Harris, that is correct. And there are, of course, that was never the plan of 828 to lose possession of a property that purchased. It also didn't expect a writer's strike. It also didn't expect a 30% downturn in the film industry across the country. And that property is still useful. It can still be used, even if it's not immediately developed. And so that's what we're in conversation about, but they do not currently have title to the property.
Thanks.
Councilor Bencomo.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought up the question of the properties as well. Can you talk about which properties that 828 is focusing on and which you are not?
I can answer that, but I can also allow the CEO of 828, Todd Lundbaum, to speak to you more about that. I'm aware of the plans, and it's the hub. It's the one that was always identified in the PPA as the facility. The PPA mentions the property downtown as the facility, the qualified production facility, and additional locations around the city. So that property, where I was at this morning, is the focus of their current business model now.
And just to clarify, that property is the South Miranda property?
Correct.
The old Baptist church?
Yes.
Okay. So then can you talk about the other properties, the one on Amador, the old bowling alley, the one right here next to the plaza? Can you just give us and how many other properties 828 owns?
Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, I can answer some of those questions. They're in part because I'm an attorney and representing them with real estate matters as well. I want to make sure that what I state is not anything that's privileged also in how we're trying to assist with the company and being able to utilize its money in the best way possible so that it can grow the film industry in Las Cruces. So it's the use of those properties and the planned use of properties is dynamic, and in part it's what's happening today with the city. If this company has immediately a $1.4 million liability, that changes its business model too. So I would like to be able to talk to my client and see what answers we can provide in writing. And I want to be as clear as possible, but I want to make sure that if there are legal reasons why we might want to not disclose, we want to be as transparent as possible, and I don't expect that we wouldn't be able to. But if you wanted specific, Todd, would you mind if I yield to?
If it's specifically about that.
Sure. Which properties?
Mayor, City Council. Todd Lamum, CEO of 828 Productions, and I'm just addressing your questions about the properties, Councilor. As my attorney stated, 106 South Miranda has always been our headquarters, and it continues to be our headquarters. As it pertains directly to 300 Compress, 1053 Hainer, which was meant to be a much larger studio complex, in 18 to 24 months, my employees called LCPD over 100 times because of incursions into the property. One of my employees was charged by a local with a machete.
Yeah, no, I assumed this is exactly where this would be going. I'm asking about the condition of the properties that you own and what you plan to do with them.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just giving some context on why those properties became too dangerous and untenable to currently continue to develop. So we've sort of shrunk ranks to focus on 106. So that's where we want to focus our energy.
What about the bowling alley?
The bowling alley also has break-ins almost daily, and it's just so difficult to keep secure that whenever I want to show it to an actor or an agent or a director or a producer, we're always running the risk of being surprised by somebody who's camped out inside the building. So for the time being, we're focusing on 106 because we seem to be able to keep that safe, and it doesn't reflect negatively on the area when we're bringing outside investment or producing partners.
Okay.
Church Street in the offices. And I would also just like to say that over the past couple of years, the number one, number two, number three requests that we get is for more office space. It's not for, hey, we need dozens of sound stages. And in the same period of time that I've been trying to develop these properties, there's been these tax dollars that have been allocated to build another facility. I think $15 or $20 million are being spent to build a sound stage over at Arrowhead. So all of this landscape is it's dynamic. It's changing all the time, and we are focused on bringing outside productions into New Mexico. You know, we have a large film that we're trying to bring in here in April, and all of this that's going on right now is threatening that. So we're just asking for more time and more attention and more communication with y'all to try to figure out what's best for the city moving forward.
Thank you for your answer.
Thanks.
I just want to say that, you know, I've been working very hard with Community Development Department to try to address neglected and blighted buildings. And the reality is that when a property owner deflects their responsibility for any particular building and it deteriorates and it is neglected and it becomes blighted, it invites more blight. And it's a bit of a circular situation. And I know that what we can do is go to the responsible landowner who can take some responsibility for those buildings. And from what I see, there has been some some lack of in that as well. And I understand that it is a bit easier to say, well, it's all of these problems that the city hasn't dealt with, and that's why the condition of the building remains the same. I would argue that the owner of the building also has responsibility to upkeep and maintain their buildings.
Councilor Matisse.
You had mentioned, and maybe you could repeat, what's the association with Arrowhead and the studio? That's New Mexico State University's plans, correct? Thank you.
Mayor, City Council. So when the talks first began about using tax money to build a soundstage, initially the state had looked at placing that soundstage on one of my properties, and then that conversation changed because I don't understand the full picture, but it landed underneath academia, and so then it was placed at Arrowhead because it's an academic facility. So my understanding is they've raised $20 million of tax money to build just a single soundstage. That's not to acquire any property or any of the other infrastructure. Where you look at what I was doing basically from scratch, having to do the utilities, the land acquisition, the design, the build. So we are getting, I guess, an academic facility. I don't know yet. I've heard so many different versions of how it's going to be split up, public, private, but it's my understanding that they've broken ground on that, and that is happening at Arrowhead.
Okay, and just to be clear, A28 Productions has no association with that facility?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
It's competition. I mean, it's tax-funded competition.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Counselor, I did not mean to shuck our responsibility in this. It's a partnership. That's what I've tried to say. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, councilors. I just want to stress that, Las Cruces, we're open for business, and that's what we want to move forward with. We don't want to bring concerns or scare off the film industry. We, I think, all have or had high hopes for 828 Productions. No investment is guaranteed. There's always risk. There's always risk. Those who invested in Amazon early on did very well. They were very savvy and sophisticated investors and organizations that invested in Enron, and that did not end up very well. I want to reconcile some of the things that you said. You talked about hiring 1,200 New Mexicans, but Elizabeth mentioned 9 employees, and we're not sure how many of those were from Las Cruces. So I'd like to reconcile that. And then the communication piece, you mentioned the 350 pages. Now, and I get it. Partners, we're in business, we're moving along. All partners have the issue. I've been married for 26 years, and I still have communication issues with my wife. And we don't always agree. But what can you reconcile those 2 things for me?
Mayor Pro Tem, that's a really great question. And I think that goes to the point that I made with 828's interest in discussing the changes to the economic climate. And so one of those, when this first began, the idea was that 828 would be a company in which could employ a large number of people. And many of the services that go along with the production would be done by full-time employees of the company itself. For a number of reasons, and we can get into those if you'd like, that business model isn't sustainable at this moment. But what 828 has shown is that it can exceed the production spending amount, which is why that $4.5 million, it was added to account for $1 million per full-time employee reduction. So it's a 55 employee reduction with a $55 million production spend adjustment to that. There are still many, many jobs, and I know crew jobs that come in and they have to jump from project to project are not always the most desirable position, but that is how much of the industry works, particularly when a new production company is building in a new area, in a new city. And so that's the reconciliation. We're talking about number of full-time employees. And I think someone may be making a comment about this, but 828 has maintained those employees, and even with the writer's strike, they kept all of those employees, didn't lose any, have paid full benefits, and their competitive wages. So that promise has been kept. It's just the type of jobs have shifted with the business strategy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
No other questions by council? At this point, is there any members of the public that would like to speak? Okay, if you start working your way up, and I'll give you all 2 minutes.
And thank you again.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Candace Nanko, and I handle the corporate operational side of 828 Productions. I'm also a native New Mexican. So for me, this role isn't just about business logistics, it's about building a sustainable world-class industry right here in my own backyard. 828 launched with big plans and a lot of momentum, ready to change the landscape of film production in this state. As many of you know, and we've talked about it here today, the writer's strike happened, and between that, we effectively lost nearly a year of production time. To give you an idea of the macro picture, nationwide production spend plummeted by 40%, while soundstage utilization across the country sat at a staggering 63%. For a company with big growth plans and the kind of industry-wide freeze that is the ultimate stress test, this is where I get incredibly proud of where I work. Despite the 40% drop in industry spend, 828 Productions did not lay off a single employee. And for that, I'm forever grateful. Thank you.
My name is Fred Huff. I had a deal prepared, but a lot of the information that I got here totally changed that. So my question is, why did this thing fail or in the process of failing? The CEO mentioned it pretty good, and it was also in, what he said here was in a January 28th Albuquerque Journal article, and he and to quote him, he said, "Progress on developing industrial properties near Amador Avenue in the middle of town has slowed because of trespassing, property crime, and security concerns at the location." Well, that's what we're having over at Burn Lake. Valley Drive, if you drive down there, you see a lot of businesses closed and boarded up or huge fences put in. All of this is the same, trespassing. Councilor Bencomo just a few minutes ago, if I understood her correct, said, oh, it's a property owner's responsibility to keep trespassing out. But also 2 weeks ago, she said it's a waste of taxpayer money for the police to be removing trespassers from city property. So where are we at? But the bottom line is this property on Amador, when I fly over it with my drone, I see people going in and out of that big building that has 828 on it. I see them going in and out of that like Walmart. So why? Well, the attraction is Community of Hope across the street giving out all of the freebies. So maybe if this thing fails and you do your clawback, maybe you can try to get that property right across from Community of Hope and use it as a place to go for these homeless, and maybe get a ordinance passed, because that's a big objection on getting a public camping ordinance passed, is where do they go? That could be it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Kathleen Ruiz. I work for 828 Productions as a bookkeeper. I want to start by saying I moved to Las Cruces in June of 2024. My daughter and I moved here from El Paso with the hopes of being able to make more, earn more money, and have be in a peaceful community. And I was really excited to find that within a month of moving here, a posting with a film production company in what I do. I love movies. We were always at the movie theater. So to be able to merge my two worlds was so exciting for me and became even more realistic through this time. Sorry, I'm nervous. This was like the most exciting cover letter I've ever written in my life. And then to be able to be granted this opportunity to work with them. So I've been with them a year and a half now. And I will say, a year ago when Protector was here filming, I had my opportunity to go to my first movie set and to actually meet Mila Jovovich face to face. No other opportunity would have come my way like that. Also during this time, I want to say, as a resident of Las Cruces, I've seen 3 pay increases during this time. It's not something that I needed to disclose, but I want to say there has been growth opportunity during this time for me that may not have been felt anywhere else. During these reporting periods that were mentioned in the presentation, we were going through staffing transitions, and the reporting to the state EDD fell into my world. So I will take responsibility in that those reports did go in late for that reason. I was still trying to get my head wrapped around those reports and what was needed. But there was no intention of delay or especially no disregard for the reporting requirements. So honest oversight on my part, and it was corrected immediately once I pulled our CEO, Todd, in to assist me with that. Thank you for your time.
Derek Pacheco for the record, Double Strike Studios, Las Cruces, New Mexico. To quote my director friend that I was just texting right now, that I sent a link to this meeting, he said, "That was hilarious to watch." I don't think it's hilarious. I think it's absolutely disgusting. I think we learned all we needed to know about the situation by Mr. Apodaca here earlier during public comment. He's a longtime film professional. He's a former child actor. He's seen it all and done it all. When a professional comes in to represent our hometown and say essentially that it's not working out and I'm ready to bounce, that should concern each and every one of you. 828 has been absolutely the worst neighbors that I could possibly have experienced coming into my neighborhood. Absolutely garbage. Will not return phone calls, will not uphold meetings. Just buying real estate to throw into a portfolio to see that portfolio rise. 9 jobs? Yeah, of course you didn't have to lay anyone off. You didn't hire anyone. It's a scam. It's a sham. And it's heartbreaking because I was one of the most excited people for this project. I was like, wow, film, my profession. I'm going to see some work out of this. I'm going to see a film community be built. Do you remember the fanfare that we had with the governor here and the council members on stage at the Rio Grande Theater? And wow, Warner Brothers, watch out. Pfft. They can't even keep the landscape up at Miranda. You can't walk down the sidewalk without having the Mexican fan palms hit you in the face. You can't have a nice walk down the street on Mesilla Street without hearing that stupid alarm. Back away from the building. These people have to go. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for taking the time here. Gerard Munoz here, just a production executive here with 828. I grew up in Las Cruces. I attended CMI. And I got 20 years in the industry, mostly in New Mexico as well as in other states here. And when I first graduated from CMI, it was exciting because I was there in the very beginning of the Creative Media Institute, and it gave me a great opportunity to learn filmmaking and whatnot. But what was heartbreaking is that, I had a daughter here, and at that point in time, you really just had to move to Albuquerque to get an opportunity to work in this industry. So when 828 reached out to me to come back here, just very excited to be able to create something here in Las Cruces and create an upward trajectory for the creative community here. Even though everything has been a rough going, it has been a great opportunity, and it still can be a great opportunity. I really hope that we can come to some agreements here and work everything out. But, you know what I mean, all the better part of this morning was spent interviewing a business owner that had their business basically renovated and fixed up by a production that we brought here. So I know that we are making progress, and I know we are making progress. It's going to be, L28 has always been there trying to make Las Cruces production ready and trying to build up that infrastructure. And I think with some teamwork between our partnership, this can still be the case. I appreciate the council's time, and just want to finally just say that, it's really, the partnership and that can make this opportunity turn around.
Chris Apodaca, Mayor, Pro Tem. It's nice to meet Todd. I've never met him. Probably about 4 years ago, when there was a write-up in the paper, I got in contact with the head of business affairs. I never talked to her. It was all texting and emails. But it's been 4 years. I never have spoke to anybody, which I was very disappointed. This is the first time I saw Todd. I'm very connected with Film Las Cruces, Ross Marks. I was very close with Mark Medoff. They were trying to get me as an adjunct professor there at New Mexico State. Unfortunately, the funds were not there. Mayor, I gave the city clerk my phone number to give to you. I plan on attending. This has been quite interesting. I'm glad I showed up. If you want, I have everything that you would possibly want to look at, but I'm very open. For any questions, you'll know that I know my business. Ask me anything that you want to know, and you can think about it, and I'll be here the next meeting, and you can go ask me anything about the business. And I'm very happy to do that. Mayor, I hope I hear from you, and I will be back. And hope you'll consider what my proposal is. Thank you very much.
Okay, Elizabeth, can you go over the council options again? Okay, we all good? Any questions? Yes, Councilor.
Thanks. So just to clarify on our council options, if we vote yes, we're voting to terminate the project participation agreement with blah, blah, blah.
Mayor, Councilor Harris, yes, we will continue to be the fiscal agents for the $3 million of the state money.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Christine?
This is on the motion to approve ordinance 3107. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Matisse?
No.
Councilor Harris?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Cran?
Yes.
Councilor Munoz?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next on the agenda is board appointments. So this one is requiring a motion and a second for James Bentley to the Veterans Advisory Board.
Move to approve.
Second.
This is on the motion to appoint James Bentley to the Veterans Advisory Board. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Matisse?
Yes.
Councilor Harris?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Cran?
Yes.
Councilor Munoz?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next, we have a notice of proposed ordinance. It's Council Bill number 26-016, ordinance number 3108, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 4, Division 3, subdivision of the Veterans Advisory Board.
Bring it forward.
Next is City Council member board reports and comments. Councilor McClure.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to give a shout out to staff for the budget retreat. I think it was a great opportunity to kind of merge some of our ideas, one of which is the Youth Advisory Council that nearly every one of us spoke to be able to reach out and build opportunities for youth in our city to be able to have direct access to what they want to see, what they want to grow here in the city. I also like the idea that we are all pretty much unanimous on supporting the library, and I hope that the legislators feel the same way. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Matisse.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Talking about shout-outs, I just wanted to say thank you to Mandy. That was a great show. We had artwork at La Buena Vida Park in District 2. Blundell is a great artist, and we had a nice turnout, and your production was done real well. Thank you, Mandy. On the second item, we had, I believe, Mr. Black asking, what are we doing? You know, what are we doing for teen programs, and what's our future? Well, we've had some meetings. Cassie attended, I believe the mayor. We had a teacher from Fair Acres. We had the Parks Director, and we're trying to expand and upgrade after-school programs. And I think we're going to get that done. We're going to make after-school programs more career-oriented, maybe skill building, and we'll have more of them. We're just not satisfied with 5 programs, 7 programs. I'd like to see the after-school programs implemented in all the schools and to make them career-oriented. So we are doing something, Mr. Black. We're not just sitting up here, not doing anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Harris.
Thanks. I would also like to echo the thanks for the budget retreat. I think it was a very productive discussion. It was great to hear from staff and to be able to really discuss things in that open way and have a handful of people from the public there. So appreciate that. I think we heard some hard truths about the budget that we've got to look at, and I think we're going to make it work. So thanks.
Councilor Brinkholm.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I also had it on my list today to thank the staff for making the budget retreat happen, and of course to almost all of my colleagues for showing up and having those conversations. I thought it was a really fruitful and meaningful day, so thank you. And I also wanted to lift up that, 2 things about the youth conversations that we had quite a bit at the budget retreat, which were really powerful. One is that I wanted to lift up the importance of having a gun diversion program. I think, it's funny that Mr. Black talked about it takes a village. And, I think in 2 ways it takes a village. It takes a village to raise strong children that become, the future, the leaders of our community. It also takes a village to fail children in our community. And I think way too often we put especially young people into boxes, and then we kind of leave them there, and we fail to ask the hard questions about how they ended up there in the first place. And so I also believe that everybody deserves multiple chances, but especially our young people. And so I would love to really put a motion and plan for how we bolster the current youth diversion and development program that we already have at the city. Certainly not supplant it, but bolster it with the support of other folks in our community who are doing this kind of work, and really hope that we get to put some money behind a pilot project for specifically gun diversion programming that can help young people find ways out of the criminal justice system. And then, speaking of youth and, wanting to hear from them and perhaps creating something that can help us better connect with them, I also, realized on Thursday there was this huge school walkout in Las Cruces. And, some people might say, oh, well, young people, they just want to skip school. But honestly, what I saw was kids who are very attuned to what's happening in our community, kids who are seeing what's happening across the country, and they are seeing themselves in that. They're seeing their families reflected in that, and they're experiencing heartache and anger, and they express that, and it was really beautiful. And so I think for all of us who want to say we want to hear from youth, and I hope that we are prepared to hear from all youth and what they have to say, especially when they have to say it so loudly. And I was very proud of those young people. Our own high schooler said she walked 10 miles total that day from Centennial High School. So, just really proud of those young folks. And I really do think it takes a village to both support them and to fail them. So I was very happy to see that we had a lot of conversations about that at the budget retreat. And I think something more powerful than what already exists is going to flourish out of that. So thank you, and thank you, staff, for putting in that work.
Thank you. Councilor Curran.
Thank you. I don't have a lot. I also just want to thank staff, especially our facilitators and the folks who came and shared, and everyone who participated in the budget retreat. It was great conversations and great context. I do feel like understanding the budget, I really appreciate Leslie Doyle's, really clear picture that she painted for us using graphs. So I always appreciate that, and the conversations we had about what ways we have forward to be thoughtful and good stewards of our money. So thank you to everyone who helped organize and do that. I also want to just give a quick shout out. I wasn't able to attend the ribbon cutting for the Fire Station 6 statue, but I think Councilor Harris was there. But I know that the art committee, when I was on the art committee at one point, we had a presentation from that artist, and I drive by that every single day. So I'm really excited to see it come to fruition. So drive by at the corner of Rinconada, or Roadrunner and Northrise, right? Yeah. If you want to see a very cool statue. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to thank the museum staff for allowing me to come in and talk to some of their middle school students. It was, I wouldn't say a tough crowd, but a crowd you had to manage, because it was me in between pizza or whatever the team bought them. So that was a little rough, but they were, very inquisitive, and so I enjoyed my time there. Also want to thank the staff and our city manager for putting together the budget retreat. Very robust, very well thought out. I love the flow and what I picked up from that session. Wanted to also thank the Miss Kyla Avila's class, economic class from New America School. Now those students, right now, some of our Gen Zs or so, it's hard to keep their attention for 2 minutes. They were there for 2 hours, 2.5 hours or so, and they absolutely loved the participation or the information. And they had so I need to get with the city attorney and the city clerk to see how I can disperse that information. They actually sent me readouts and information of what they liked, what they didn't like, and some suggestions. These youngsters from high school, and I was so tickled by that. So a lot of good feedback, some constructive feedback, which is fine, and we grow from that. But I was terribly impressed, just as amazingly impressed by Ms. Avila's class and their thoughtfulness of just spending 2 hours with us. So I'm very hopeful in our future leaders. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Also, I just want to thank the Las Cruces Police Department and our Parks and Rec for our newly certified park rangers that were introduced on Friday afternoon. We're always looking for public safety in our community, and this is a good way to offer safety in public spaces, especially our parks. Again, thank you to the city manager and staff for the budget retreat. I think it was done very well and had a lot of good insight from everyone, and looking forward to the work session. Also, on this week, Wednesday, we will be going up to Santa Fe for City Day. It'll be hosted by the city of Las Cruces. We'll have a breakfast there. A lot of us will be attending so that we can discuss with our legislators a lot of our priorities, such as the library and others that we're looking for to bring value to our community. And with that, I'll turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Enriquez, Mayor Pro Tem Munoz, and city councilors, Sikani Tampao, city manager, and just a few announcements. I echo everyone on this. We're so appreciative of you attending, and to staff, and especially the public. It's not an easy meeting to attend. It was a full day on the agenda, and I am so sorry for council. I kept you from lunch and break time to squeeze in all the agenda items, so thank you for your patience and understanding. I echo your appreciation for staff, and I just want to give some kudos to Leslie and our budget team, always working behind the scenes. Thank you to Cynthia Alamillo and our CIP team making it happen, and to all of her team. Strategic planning, appreciate Chris and Sarah Gonzalez for helping to plan the GRT, and all the departments who are working on all the projects and have submitted their projects for budget and GRT. Appreciate Public Works being there. Our assistant city managers always there for support, and Christine Rivera, thank you. We had a great budget team this year, and so I'm glad, and hopefully budget and our staff heard all the appreciations and kudos that council's given them. That means a lot to staff, so thank you so much. Parks and Rec have a few announcements. Pioneer Women's Park enhancements. I am pleased to announce that the next phase of master plan improvements at Pioneer Women's Park is officially underway. As this month occurs, crews have begun working on new walkways, the installation of pergolas, and modernized irrigation systems to ensure the park remains vibrant and sustainable. We expect construction to wrap up in due time to ensure the park is ready for our residents to enjoy the summer season. Neighborhood Dumpster Day. Finally, a reminder for our residents, Keep Las Cruces Beautiful will host the monthly Neighborhood Dumpster Day this Saturday, February 7th from 8 a.m. to noon. Disposal sites will be available at Apodaca Park, East Mesa Recreation Center, and Young Park. We encourage everyone to take advantage of this opportunity. And last, for Parks and Rec, Trevis Trail reforestation. In our ongoing effort to expand the city's canopy, our community forestry staff recently completed the planting of 60 new trees along the Trevis Trail between Coles and University Avenue. While these trees are currently in the early growth stage, this is a vital investment in our city's future. Thank you, park staff. Public Works, just a few announcements, and then we'll end with VLC. Municipal Court, HVAC. We have our renovations happening currently at Municipal Court, and just want to announce to our neighbors at Muni Court, they've been on the second floor for a few months, and we appreciate their staff and their patience, and also our staff accommodating them. The transition will happen on March 2nd, where they go back to their building on 135 East Grigg. So just a heads up on that. Second announcement, construction improvements on Cortez Drive from Porter to Dunn are complete. New roadway, sidewalks, multi-use trails, utilities, storm drainage systems, and street lighting installed. Caliper Construction Incorporated of Las Cruces completed the contract for $6 million. Next, new street light installations began in the North Mesquite Historic District. Work on North Mesquite, Piñon Avenue, and San Pedro Street, East Picacho Avenue, and North Tornillo Street. Work expected through June 26, with the contract value of $500,000 by Highland Enterprise. Last, for Public Works, South Walnut, East Lowman signal improvements is scheduled to start on February 17th and continue through June. Improvements include traffic efficiency and safety, signal upgrades, new crosswalks, and enhanced pedestrian ramps. Intersection project is 1.5 with A Mountain Construction in Las Cruces. And last, I wanted to end with a cool surprise. Rochelle, can you put your hand up? Are these free? These are free, okay. So, Visit Las Cruces, and that was our tourism director, Las Cruces' very own Rochelle Hernandez. They have put on this visitor guide. It is out and has been receiving quite a few compliments. Last year, they actually, this guide, different guide, but this is going to also receive some cool awards. Last year, they received the award for Best Print Campaign, and we're hoping to win it again. So we appreciate Rochelle. We appreciate her and her staff. Also, postcards that look very similar. There's probably other postcards as well, or is this the only one? Okay. There's several. She's shaking her head. She's saying there's various postcards, but this is just super cool. Visit Las Cruces. They're saying this is free, but they are funded by Largesec. So this is actually paid by tourism. So we appreciate all the work that is happening. Keep up the great work, Rochelle. This is a cool treat, so get your very own at Visit Las Cruces building. Thank you. And that's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, City Manager. With that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
This is on the motion to adjourn the meeting. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Matisse?
Yes.
Councilor Harris?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Coran?
Yes.
Councilor Munoz?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.